4 out of 10 South Africans are worse off financially than a year ago. This is blamed on rising inflation, and the figures are contained in the Nielsen IQ's Consumer Outlook for 2023. But is there any room on our belt to tighten even another notch? We'll find out now from Nedbank's Bridget Nkandu. She is the Executive for Strategy and New Business Development at Nedbank. Bridget, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us. I mean, I'm sure with a lot of South Africans, you don't need to tell us how dire the situation has been. You can even say post-COVID-19, 2020, or COVID-19 rather. In your view, what are people doing? How do we innovate in trying to deal with the financial situation?
Sure. So thank you so much, and very good morning to you, and good morning to your viewers and also your listeners. So how are South Africans adapting to managing their finances? So I think although the financial indicators may not be positive, I believe there's merit in helping clients make better money choices for a brighter future. And as we are all aware, many South Africans are really feeling the pinch and are focused on essential items and services to save money. However, there are still ways to manage finances well and stretch budgets, like taking advantage of what we call a value accumulation concept, which can add 2% to basic income through everyday banking adjustments. So we are seeing within the banking space, what we're seeing within the banking space is the importance of recognizing the fact that transactional banking is essential, and that consumers still have financial goals and lifestyle aspiration that should not be compromised by the current challenges.
Now, I hear you, Bridget, in saying that there are products and services, you know, that obviously banks have that can assist consumers in dealing with their financial situation. But here's the dilemma. What if you feel that you can't stretch the rand any further? There's just so much demand. You either have to choose between paying school fees or whether you buy, a life policy, for example. Do you find that those are the dynamics currently?
Yeah, so I think those are the dynamics that consumers are really experiencing. So what we are finding is that more consumers are kind of shifting their spend, for example, in terms of really reducing their, how can I put it? So we're finding that most consumers are really shifting the way they spend. We find that a lot are shifting more from almost like the luxury expenses to more of the almost like, what customers really need. So what we do find ourselves here, maybe if I can paint the picture of the current context that we are kind of grappling with, there's kind of 4 key things that a consumer today is struggling with. There's unemployment, there's inflation, there's currency fluctuation, and interest rates. So if we speak about unemployment, South Africans are really grappling with high unemployment rates. So what we find is that most South Africans are also kind of really focusing on even side hustles. We're seeing a high rate of customers wanting to do more side hustling. If we speak about from an inflation perspective, I think it's an important factor to consider in the financial context, because rising inflation can really erode the purchasing power of consumers, so making goods and services very expensive. So we're seeing that consumers are really looking for discounts. They're turning to promotions. They're turning to bulk buying. They're also taking advantage of a lot of loyalty programs.
Yes, and we are in Youth Month, the eve of June 16, the 47th commemoration thereof. Young professionals getting themselves into not only, acquisition of property and vehicles, etc. There are always underlying costs that if you had not been reared or educated enough, you could find yourself in a situation where you're over-indebted and then having to make adjustments, especially with inflation and all other elements coming into play.
Yeah, no, that's right. So I think what we're also experiencing is that so if we think about the income of a consumer, so while the incomes have increased, for example, maybe like, let's say around 8%, but you find that the current debt obligations that consumers have also really increased at a higher length. So customers are finding themselves paying more for their home loans, paying more for their vehicle finances, paying more for their credit and all. So which means that the spend on maybe like eating out, for example, has to be suppressed. Buying luxury items also has to be suppressed. So the consumer is really finding themselves in such an instance where they have to kind of really work around that budget in terms of ensuring that they prioritize and plan their expenses, and also saving. We're still seeing that saving money is also an important aspect for financial management. So South Africans have been focusing also on building like emergency funds and long-term savings by setting aside a portion of their income regularly. And also, I think the big one that I spoke about again is cutting on expenses to manage finances directly. So you find that there's a lot around reducing entertainment costs, dining out less, negotiating better deals on bills, and also just finding ways to save everyday expenses like groceries and utilities. And also, I think we shouldn't underestimate the rise of really consumers looking for alternative income sources with the rising. If we think about the rise of the gig economy and online platforms, South Africans are really exploring side hustles and freelance work to supplement that regular income.
Absolutely. But thank you so much, Bridget Nkandu, Executive at Strategy and New Business Development at Nedbank, for your time. Of course, that's one of the conversations that we ought to have, albeit uncomfortable, the reality of your financial situation at home and what it is that we can afford and cannot afford, even if it means having to disappoint. If you have young children, if they have certain expectations of what your money can afford them, I think it's a discussion to be had to prepare them in trying to adjust in these difficult financial situations.